All right, everyone. Thanks for coming to our session. This session is about Microsoft Stream. And this one's going to be a little different than other sessions we've done on Stream before. We're going to do kind of under the hood. We're going to kind of look at admin settings, things that we probably wouldn't demo normally. We're going to demo those things. And we're actually going to show off how it's built, what the underlying architecture of Stream is. So it's going to be an interesting session. Hope you like it. My name is Marc Mroz. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Stream team.
I'm Cory Cirrincione. I'm one of the engineering managers on Microsoft Stream.
So we wanted to start off with kind of what our key takeaways are for this session for you. So first one is that Stream has the compliance security to meet Tier D standards from Office 365 Trust Framework. We were Tier C just yesterday. They just added us to the Tier D list recently in the framework. So it's because we got all of our FedRAMP and all of those different certifications to meet Tier D. So that's brand new for us. Stream has the admin controls that are needed by IT admins, and we're going to show you a bunch of those today. And then Stream is really built on an architecture to deliver videos and live events at scale. So it is really built for big companies, small companies, medium companies alike to use it. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about how you plan your network bandwidth, a little bit about Office groups, and so a couple of those things that you need to plan as you're looking to roll out Microsoft Stream. Just from the audience, how many of you are already using Stream today? A bunch of you already. So hopefully there's new stuff and new information in here that you guys haven't seen before. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about some of those admin resources that you have available to you. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go to this link right here. Don't know why that is so tiny. Let's try to zoom in.
Your presentation mode.
Oh, you can't see it. Let me get out of presentation mode. Okay, here we go. Is that big enough? Can you guys see? Let me zoom in a little bit. So we do have this kind of table of contents in terms of admin resources you have available to you. So really good research about how you manage content, all the settings and controls out there, a little bit more about Intune management. We're going to touch heavily on this network considerations in terms of how video delivery works today, ECDN providers and that sort of thing. We're also going to touch on audit logs, managing user data, that sort of thing. One of the key things that I wanted to jump into here is around people who haven't necessarily deployed Stream yet. One of the common questions from your compliance teams, your security teams is like, where is my data actually stored in Stream? And so if you click on this link, you can see these are all the different data centers that we have Stream deployed to. So we're in a bunch of the Go locals. We're in GCC. We're not in GCC High or GCC DoD yet, but we're looking to move into other regions very soon. And if you want to really know where your tenant's data actually is, that's pretty easy. You can actually just jump into Stream, and if you go click on the question mark up here, and then down in About Microsoft Stream, there is, it tells you right here your data is stored in East US 2. So you can actually tell for your specific tenant where is the data. So we're making that completely transparent to you. If I click back, the other thing I wanted to cover is around kind of the compliance standards. So I said we're Tier D, so again, this just happened yesterday. We haven't had a chance to update the documentation. We'll go update that. But if I click on this Office 365 compliance framework and I download this PDF is what the Office Trust Framework lists all of the certifications, all of the things that are needed for each specific device, each specific standard. So we're now in Tier D, which means we have all of these certifications ahead of us. So we have all of these ones on this column. We have SOC 1, SOC 2, ISO 1s, EUMC, HIPAA. All of those certifications were done so that we can be classified as Tier D. You can see right here, we're at the bottom of the list right here. So Microsoft Stream is in that Tier D column. If I jump back into the slides, so that was just kind of a quick overview. We're actually going to now jump into some of the architecture itself. And so Cory is going to take us through some of that.
All right. So I wanted to start with a kind of higher view of like how Stream runs and the architecture of the basic flow so everyone kind of gets an understanding of the big pieces of Stream. So to start with, we have a set of global resources that no matter where you're calling in, wherever your tenant is, you're going to use these resources here. And the big pieces here are our authentication piece. So this is where we look up your AAD credentials, your Azure Active Directory credentials, and make sure you are who you say you are. As part of that, we actually have a tenant mapping database, and this is what tells us where, based on your AAD credentials, what tenant do you belong to, and where is that tenant based out of? So that's how we find out which data center your data actually lives in. Account services is part of what we use to coordinate that AAD integration, and then we have some general telemetry that's also at the global level. We have a set of resources at the data center level. So this is where our stream code, most of the stream code actually lives. So the first big piece is our front-end portal. So this is the user experience that you actually see when you go to web.microsoftstream.com. And we start off with the web app is actually the UI that you see. It's all hosted on a CDN, so that way it's delivered quickly globally. And then we have some web roles that are responsible for the processing of the requests and make sure they coordinate correctly with our backend. The other significant piece is our backend services, obviously, and to do that, we have a couple big parts here. So we have what I'll just loosely call the stream services, and it's really a set of web roles that are responsible for the business logic and the processing of the requests again and doing the right stuff. And we have a SQL database to store all of our metadata, and it's worth noting that all the data in the SQL database is stored encrypted using Azure encryption at rest, and so all that stuff is kept safe in storage there. Along with our services, we have Azure Media Services. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Azure Media Services is a platform as a service offering from Azure that's responsible for a lot of our core heavy lifting for the video processing that we do. It does things like our encoding, it does content protection, it does streaming, and it does Azure Media Player. So I'll dig into those in a little more detail here in a second. The way it all comes together is that when you, as a client, say, hey, I want to use Stream, we start with that initial call to our authentication service, and we make sure you are who you say you are. We find out where your tenant is located. That's what then redirects you to the right place. It's worth noting that when you get the portal, you're going to actually get the portal that's whatever's closest to, no matter where you are. If your tenant is homed in the US, but you happen to be traveling in London, you'll get the portal delivered to you from London. But it'll hook up to the right backend, and it'll say, oh, your data's in the US, and it'll go get it. And so we use Traffic Manager to figure out which portal to use for you, which one's the best, but then you always are going to come back to the data center that houses your data to do your core processing and get your data back out. So with that, I want to dig in. That's kind of the high-level overview, but I want to dig in a little bit on the...
Hey, Cory, I need to interrupt you. My phone is blowing up here. Like, there is an issue going on right now. I need to fix it. When you're the IT admin for Contoso, your job is never done. Is it okay if I interrupt you right now and I figure out what this issue is?
I guess so.
Okay. I'm really sorry. This is
Sorry,
crazy.
folks. Demo. It always happens in a demo.
Yeah, especially, I mean, Contoso demos all the time. So I'm getting all these emails. Help. The CEO video sent out this morning is messed up. Patty sent an all Contoso email, but it's the wrong video. No one knows what's. I don't know. Man, she's like messaging me on Teams. Oh my goodness, help!
Oh, jeez,
craziness.
It clearly looks serious. Please bear with us just a moment, folks. We got to get this taken care of, and then we'll be right back in the
Cory,
demo.
she assigned me tasks in Planner that are due today for this issue. Okay, I need to figure out what is going on. Okay, let me help. The video is wrong, and no one knows where the right video is. All right, so Patty's our CEO. She sent out this email. Everyone's supposed to go watch this. It's about the quarterly results. It's a good thing Contoso employees don't get in until 2:45, so I think we have a couple of minutes.
Perfect. Yeah, we can.
They don't normally get in until that time, so it's good. So let's watch this video. Let's check out what is wrong. Like I don't even know what could be wrong with this video.
This quarter was amazing. The profits are through the roof.
Wait,
What was wrong with that video?
it exploded.
Wait. The chart's upside down!
Jeez.
Oh my goodness.
That's a bit of a mistake.
So the profits aren't through the roof. The profits are plummeting into the dark depths of despair.
I don't think that's the message we're trying to send.
I don't think it is. Okay, what can I do to fix this? Okay, let me look at the permissions first on this video. Okay, so I don't have access to this video, but because I'm an admin of Stream, I can actually edit it in admin mode. So I'm gonna go ahead and elevate myself and edit it in admin mode. Okay, it says I'm in admin mode. I can take these actions. I'm just gonna go and it looks like people in Contoso own it, and Megan is the one who uploaded it. I'm just gonna add myself as an owner right now so that I can deal with this. It'll make it easier. I'll make myself an owner right now in terms of the permissions. I'm gonna apply that. Okay, so they said that they don't know where the video is. What am I gonna do? Okay, so let me go here. I'm gonna go.
It was there yesterday.
I hope they sent, like, I don't even understand what happened. This is craziness. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the recycle bin in Stream admin, and okay, bad, delete me, Q2 2019 financial results. Seriously, this is great. But the thumbnail looks like the chart is going up.
That's a start.
Okay, so this is in the recycle bin, and so I can actually restore this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and restore this. Maybe I can just fix it with the right video. Okay, let's watch this one. Hopefully this is the right one.
It's got great music.
This quarter was amazing. The profits are through the roof.
This
Okay,
looks way
all right,
better.
that looks way better. There
Way
was
better.
confetti instead of explosions. Okay, wait, we don't need to play that again. But the problem is
How do we replace that?
Patty sent the email already, and people are coming to work in 4 minutes, and so they're gonna click this link, and it's still gonna be the bad one. What's the second link she gave? The second link she gave is a SharePoint site, which has the bad one. We could fix this and we could replace this here, but like the email's gonna be wrong. She'd have to send another email. What if I go in and I download, okay, so this is where's the good one? Where was the good one? The one that says bad delete me, that's the good one. I don't know what is going on here. I'm gonna go and edit this one in admin mode. I'm gonna download this video as well. All right, so I'm gonna download that. Hopefully it downloads. Let's make sure that it actually, okay, it looks like the right one. Now I can go back to, this is the one that was in the
bad
link.
one, yeah.
This is the bad one that if they thought was the good one. I'm gonna edit this, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna replace the video link. So I'm gonna click replace here. I'm gonna browse, and I'm gonna find my downloaded one. It's bad, whatever. Okay, I should have renamed that. Hopefully I don't get confused. Okay, so now I'm gonna replace this one, and it's gonna re-upload it, and it's gonna replace it, and hopefully that'll actually fix the stuff. So I'll give that a second to upload and do the replacing. Now I'm gonna actually go into the audit log, and I'm gonna go and I'm
How
gonna-
did this happen?
I'm gonna search for the video that was the one that got deleted to figure out what actually happened. Since Stream sends all of the audit log events to there, hopefully we should be able to figure out what happened. Okay, great. So Megan uploaded it. She created it, uploaded it, set some permissions. She edited it.
Uh-oh.
And then Cory, Cory, what are you doing on this video?
I was...
Okay,
yeah.
it says you changed some permissions, and then it says you edited the video before the name was called official, and then you renamed it to bad delete me. Why would you do that, Cory?
I was trying to be helpful.
Cory, what
I
are
think
you
I
doing?
did it wrong.
This is crazy. Okay, and then look, right after you renamed it, like a minute later, Megan went in and deleted the video. Cory, okay, Cory, I looked at the permissions, you weren't even a part of that group. How would this have happened? All right, let's go see. I bet you're an admin in Stream, and you
may have, yeah.
Okay, yep. Cory is an admin. I'm sorry, Cory, the tribe has spoken. You have been removed from the Stream admin list. Cory, we're not gonna let this happen again, are we?
Not again.
Okay.
Guess we can't now.
All right. Sorry, you're not an admin anymore. Okay, let's go back to this video. Where was the one we were replacing? Now I'm lost. Man, let's go back to the email, click it. Hopefully we replaced the right one. And this whole thing isn't for loss. Oh, there, it looks so good. Whew. It's the right video now. Okay, so this is the one from the email. It's all good, and it's 2:44. Everyone's gonna show up in 1 minute.
And you clicked the same link that was in the email from before. It
I
wasn't
clicked
a
the
new
same link, right? And now, okay, so this one's here. If I just refresh this, this is totally just gonna work.
All right. Whew.
All right.
All right, Marc, you saved us.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm glad. Okay, so no problem, Megan. It's all fixed. Boom.
No, they'll take it from my paycheck. Like, that's not good.
All right, Cory,
All right.
you can go ahead and continue with your talking about the architecture if you would like.
All right, crisis averted. Thank you for the patience. We needed to take care of that. So I want to dig in for a second on how the upload architecture in Stream works, just to give you again an idea of the pieces that are involved. And to do this, I'm going to walk you through kind of a flow of what happens along the way. So as you can expect, it starts off with the client saying, hey, I want to upload a file. So it's going to make a call into the Stream services. Stream services are going to create an actual asset for that within our database, as well as create a blob storage reserved spot for it. We're going to generate a time-based SAS URL that we're going to return to the client that gives them access to store data into that blob storage. And they're going to go ahead and start chunking up the file and uploading it to that blob storage. Once it's all done, it's going to signal us back saying, hey, we're done with the upload. And at that point, we're going to go ahead and store the metadata into our encrypted SQL database again. And we're going to start the processing of the video. And this is where the magic of Stream really happens. So the first thing we're going to do is generate a proxy encoding. This is about a medium bit rate version of the video that we generate as quick as possible to make it so that you're available available to your users as quickly as you can, even if it's just at 1 bit rate. As soon as that one's done, we'll go ahead and signal back to the UX and make the video available. At this point, users can actually go to the portal and actually find this video and start watching it. While we're doing that, though, we're going to continue the processing. And so we're going to go ahead and generate the multiple bitrate encoding next, and this is going to create up to 6 encoding profiles for your video, so that way we handle everything from mobile browsing all the way up to your hardline web connection on your desktop in your office, and have the best experience possible. We're also going to generate thumbnails for the video, so that way we have a nice, pretty representation of your video. We're going to generate the transcript, so as long as your video is English or Spanish, by default we'll automatically generate a transcript based off the speech in the video. And then we're going to go ahead and return that back to the user experience and say, hey, show the transcript UX, and now that's available. And then we're going to go ahead and continue working and detect the faces. Again, there's an option that we can talk about in a second to store the faces in our Stream database, and then we're going to go ahead and show the user experience for faces. And so the idea is that the process all happens, it's all asynchronous. We're going to try to make things available to the user as quickly as we can while we continue doing more work. And over time, as we add more processing, more features, it'll just join in this loop, and we'll keep adding to that and make it available as soon as we can. So with that, I'm going to let Marc talk a little bit about some of the permissions and settings we have to control that upload experience and what you as admins can do about it.
Yeah, so before we get into kind of like what the actual permissions look like and what the admin settings are, when we're talking about upload, we first really need to kind of understand kind of the organization structure of Stream. So today, this is kind of what the organization structure looks like. Unfortunately, Cory, I didn't have your PowerPoint skills, so I didn't add a build animations like your fancy slides.
Okay, someday you'll learn.
Someday I'll learn. So this is kind of what the rough organization structure of how it looks in Stream today. So there's a couple of different components. We'll talk through each of those. There's a kind of a big divide on stuff that is organization-wide, meaning anyone in the organization can see it, stuff that is private. And you can see that each individual video isn't actually inside of the group or inside of the channel. They're actually little pointers pointing into it. So in Stream, it's very different than like SharePoint or OneDrive, where I come and I have a site collection, I drop my file into that site collection, and it gets all of the permissions of that thing. What we built in Stream was that the videos themselves are kind of referenced and permissioned to groups and to channels. And so you can have videos that live on their own with their own permissions of individual users, 80 security groups, or I can reference them to the permissions to a group, and then it inherits all of the members and owners of that group itself. So it's slightly different. It's not a container model, it's a kind of a reference model. This does allow us, as you can see, some of those on the chart actually are pointing into multiple groups, multiple channels. So you can have a single video actually exist and show up on people's home pages in multiple groups and channels at the same time.
It does let you as the owner maintain control over the permissions of that video. No matter who puts it into any channel, you still have the final say of who gets to view your video.
Yep. And then the groups in Stream are tied one-to-one to Office 365 groups. So that's another key thing that you'll want to keep in mind as you're starting to roll out Stream, is you need, like just when a team is made, it makes an Office group, a Yammer group is made, it makes an Office group, a team site made, makes an Office group, Planner Plan made, it makes an Office group. Same thing for Stream. Those groups that are generated from all those other services can actually show up in Stream, and you can start permissioning videos into them, organizing videos into channels inside of them. And so you need to make sure that you put governance and planning in place for Office 365. 365 groups, and we respect all of those same options and things for the rest of Office groups. So if you have prefixes or suffixes that you're putting in all Office groups, we'll respect those. If you want to lock down who can make it Office groups and not make it fully self-service, we respect those settings. Same thing with the classification labels, the policies, those sorts of things around group creation, we respect that. And then groups have themselves owners and members, and so we have a special setting in Office Groups and Stream that is a stream-only setting that toggles whether members can contribute and add new videos and permission them in, or they are viewers only. So this allows you to have concepts around like a public Office 365 group, and public is the term Office Groups uses, but it really means organization-wide, not public outside the organization, just inside your company, anyone can view, where you can just have a couple of owners upload content, but all the people who join as members only get to view, or you can make that public group collaborative where everyone can upload. So it allows some really good flexibility. And then we have the concept of channels. Channels really just don't have permissions on their own. They're an organization structure to be able to kind of like group-like content, you know, sub-organization underneath the group level, and they don't have permissions on their own. They just inherit the permissions of the group itself. And then there's a little oddball in there of company-wide channels that are a stream-only entity that are very community-driven. So any video that is marked anyone can view this video can be added to anyone's company-wide channel. So you don't really control ownership of those. They can be added to anyone's company-wide channel, and anyone can remove them from the company-wide channel. So there is a setting we'll cover in a second here around you can turn on or off those company-wide channels if you don't want them. So that's kind of the rough rundown of how that sort of works. And you can permission videos individually, put them into these groups, or permission them into these groups. So if we jump into kind of what the upload settings look like themselves in Stream, if I go back to admin settings, and I go first to this content creation tab, the content creation tab has a couple of settings. One is we can restrict who can upload videos. So by default, everyone can upload videos into Stream, but I could actually toggle this on, and I could have just a set of individual users or AD security groups who can have access to upload to Stream. And we see both kinds of customers in Stream. We see those that just leave it completely open, and we have others who kind of lock it down and say only a couple of people can upload, and then we have other ones that are kind of in the middle that say there's an approval process. Once you say, like, you ask me, can I upload to Stream, vet you, and then you say yes, and then I add you to this list. So we kind of see people kind of run the full gamut of this.
I see I'm not in your upload approved list.
Yes, you're not. The other thing around the restricting video uploads is this is controlled for team meeting recordings. When you record a meeting in Teams and you want it auto-uploaded to Stream, this setting does apply. So if you aren't having access to upload to Stream, you would not be allowed to record a meeting and have it auto-upload to Stream. This is the those company-wide channel creation piece here, so where I could actually say, actually, I don't want people to make company-wide channels, or only a handful of people could make those company-wide channels. We are seeing lots of customers turn this off because the company-wide channels don't give you the same benefits as a group. You can do most of the things that you wanted to do with a company-wide channel with a public group that everyone can contribute to, but it gives you second-layer organization under the group. It gives you multiple owners, and so people are opting to use that instead of this Stream concept of a company-wide channel. This third setting, default video permissions, is a brand new setting that we just launched a couple of weeks ago. When you upload a video, and we'll show you in a second what that looks like to upload a video, there's in the permission section it says, hey, everyone can view this video or not. And so this setting actually controls whether that box is checked by default or not. So right now it's set to everyone in your company, but I could actually toggle this to specific groups or people. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and so you can see what that looks like in a second. The other thing we have is company policy. So often people want to put in their own kind of company policy around terms and conditions of what's appropriate to upload and what's not appropriate to upload. So here you can go ahead and actually add one of those in here. So I set up a SharePoint site, and I'm going to add this as a company policy, and then we'll test it out and show you what it looks like in a second. So if you just leave it like this and don't require the company policy, it means that it'll just show up when you're uploading. You can click it and say, this is what the terms are. But if you want to require it, you can go ahead and toggle this on and hit save. And when you do that, it means that before I upload the very first time, I actually have to click the link, open up the page, I have to read it, and then come back and say, yes, I've read that, I accept your policy, and then I'm allowed to upload. So we're actually going to go through and walk through that like that. I did give you access to upload, Cory, so I'm gonna I'm gonna use your login here, Cory, to test out those settings that we just changed. We go ahead and click refresh.
I guess I trust you to do this.
And I'm going to go ahead and click Upload Video. And you can see before uploading videos, please read and accept our company policy, and policy will open in a new tab. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the company policy.
Whoa.
This is the company policy. Whereas the management cannot be held responsible for any accident, limb, license, where
That's intense.
frost, flood, debris. Do you accept this, Cory?
I guess so. It feels like I'm entering Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something. Okay.
All right. So Cory will say, yes, I accept the company policy. And so now he has access to actually upload. And so he can always get back to that company policy here if he wanted to. So we can go ahead and upload a video so you can kind of see those. Let's see if I have some videos to upload. We do not have an ability to reset the company policy yet, but that's on the backlog that we need to go build it so that we can reset the company policy after you've changed it. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this video. Cory hasn't uploaded before, so I'm going to set his default language to English. And so here you can see where you just fill out your normal description and all that sort of stuff. And you can see now on this permission. So this allow everyone in your company to view this video is not checked by default, and that is new with that new setting that we just added, where by default, if I uploaded from the top of the portal, it would have been checked by default, but now because of that setting, it's not. I can go choose to go set it if I wanted the video to be public, but it's not going to be there by default.
So by default, I'm going to be the only one that can see this video.
Yeah, so if in the settings that are right now, Cory would be the only one to be able to see it. If he goes to groups and he goes to, let's see what group, I don't know what groups Cory's is a part of, but you could search for specific groups, you can search for specific channels to add those videos in, or you can add it to individual people or 80 security groups. So if I... So for groups here, where it's saying my groups, these are Office 365 groups. So this is where I add it to Office 365 groups. If I want to add it to an AD security group, I would toggle to people, and then I can actually search for, so here I know I have a stream admins AD security group, so I can add it to there and say that by default, they can all view it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and make them owners of that as well. So that's a look at the admin kind of settings around kind of upload. So now we're going to switch back to the slides, and Cory's going to go through how the playback architecture kind of works.
All right, now that we got the content into stream, we got to actually do what we came here to do, which is to view it. So again, we're going to start with the flow and kind of explain how this all comes together. So the client's going to start by asking for the video details from the service. This first thing that happens is the service is going to go and say, hey, are you who you say you are? Do you actually have access to this video? So no matter how you get to stream, whether it's through the browse, through search, through an email, first thing we're going to do is, do you actually have access to this video? It's going to return the video details back to the client. Client's going to load the page, and it's going to instantiate our media player. So we have a player that's based on Azure Media Player that is responsible for playing back the thing, and it actually is a pretty cool player and does lots of stuff, which I'll get into in a second. The player is going to go ahead and, oh, there's my fancy builds. The player is going to go ahead and ask the service for the decryption key because it realizes that the content that I'm trying to play is actually encrypted. All stream content is encrypted with 128-bit AES encryption. So it's going to go, the service is going to talk to AMS. AMS is going to go ahead and return us the decryption key so that it can actually play it, give that back to the client. The next thing the client's going to do is it's going to say, what protocol do I need? And so part of what we get from using the Azure Media Player is we use the same player on all our endpoints, and it's smart enough to go, I'm on iOS, I need to have HLS streaming. I'm on a Windows 10 machine, I'm going to use MPEG-Dash. Or, hey, I'm on an old Windows 7 machine in IE, I'm going to use smooth streaming. And it's smart enough to detect that and know what it needs in order to play it back, the protected content. So it's going to say, okay, I got the protocol. Let's go ahead and start pulling content. AMS is going to go retrieve the content from our encrypted storage space. It's going to grab the content chunks. One of the things that we get from AMS is we do dynamic packaging, meaning we store the content in a generic manifest type format, and it's ready to be delivered in any of the manifests that we have. That way we can save time on processing a whole bunch of stuff in formats that aren't needed, and it does it on demand. So based on whatever the media player said it needed, it's going to package it correctly and serve up the encrypted chunks back to the client. The client's going to use that decryption key to decrypt the video and render the video. It's worth noting, because of this whole decryption encryption key process, this video is not playable back in any other media player. So it's not like normal video where you can say, oh, let me grab the URL and load it in player X, VLC player or whatever. It's not going to work because none of those players know how to go get the decryption key. And so that's how we protect it and make sure you can only play it inside of our sandbox.
And it's really only being decrypted on the client at the point of time with the player itself. So that protects against any sort of man-in-the-middle attacks. We can put these encrypted chunks on a CDN to optimize video delivery because they're just encrypted chunks. Even if you grab the content to it, you would never have the key. So the key is always only at the content of the player, and then it's decrypted on the fly as video is actually being played back.
Exactly. And there's my last piece. All right. With that, there's a handful of settings that are related to playback that Marc's going to walk us through and see how you guys can control playback.
So there's not a lot of settings that are really around playback. We'll walk through a couple that are available to you. One is we have a big on-off switch for restricting comments on videos. So by default, it's on. People can have comments on their videos, and then each video owner by owner could actually turn off the comments on the video. But I could also turn it off as a global setting in case I don't want to actually use comments on the video. I could just turn it off as an owner as well. And then the other one, this is a brand new setting within the last month, is we added a feature to be able to turn off the people detection and the people timeline. And so a handful of customers that we were working with was going through their security and compliance reviews, and there was enough questions about how this works and in terms of its face recognition on the person. We don't know who the person is. We're just detecting that this same face appeared 10 times in the video. But there was enough legal gray areas in some states like Illinois and Texas that have new biometric scanning laws. And so we built an off switch that you can turn this off. So if you turn it off, it's actually not just going to stop new ones from being detected. It's going to run a job and delete all of the face data that we had in the system that has been there since you turned on stream. So this is a brand new setting. You can turn it off. It may take a little while if you wanted to turn it back on. You have to make sure that job finishes, and then you can turn it on, and it would only apply to new ones going forward.
It is worth noting that if you do turn it off, that deletion of old data is permanent. So we don't go, if you change your mind saying, oh no, we love face detection, and you turn it back on, that is going to apply to new uploaded files. So everything you upload from now on will get face detection again. We are not going to go back and redo face detection on videos that are already in the system. So it's important to think carefully before you switch this one off. This isn't a setting you necessarily want to play with, but you should be thoughtful of doing it.
Yeah, we didn't demo it here. Let me actually see if I can if I have a big video in stream that I can show you. Let's see, what's a good one? Let's go videos.
As he's looking for that, like one of the main things we do in stream, some of the power we have is in that transcription and the face detection. And if you guys use stream, you know this, but one of the huge powers of this is that we index these things. So it's all about making it easy, not only to find the content you're looking for, but find what you want in the content. So this is really used as a tool to say, I really care about where Satya talked about this or that, and you can jump right to that face using the face thing. As Marc said, we don't know who it is. We just say this is the person that we found, and it's up to you to kind of recognize who you're looking for.
Yeah, so here it recognized 3 faces in this video, so Patty, our CEO, and then a couple of other people. And so I say I didn't want to actually watch the whole video, I just want to jump where this person was, and I recognize who the person is, so I click on that part, and now I see, oh, there's their face. Or if I wanted to jump where this lady here, she's at the very tail end, now we'll see that that's where she appears. So we don't know who these people are, we just know that there were 3 faces in this video, and so we allow you to jump to it. And so this new admin setting turns this off and deletes all this data.
You had a question? Well, just to rephrase the question, you're saying like the company policy leaves it on, but as an individual, you want to be able to opt out and say, don't show my face, or as an individual, you want to control the settings for just your video?
Yeah, we don't have that right now, but we are trying to think about how, like, we just built this big giant off switch so that we can kind of move forward. But we do want to keep trying to figure out, is there some other ways with the laws that are coming up in California and Illinois and Texas and other places, is there some way that we can build some sort of other mitigations into the system where, like, if we have to go work out what that is with legal and talk to people and that sort of stuff, but we do want to come to some way where in places where you did get acceptance or you did get consent or something like that, that you can choose to still use it and it's not just a giant off switch. Right now we just have a big off switch, but we know we would like to put this back so that people who have these concerns can find some way to use it, and it does mitigate whatever the risk is there at their company for what their legal team requires. So. The last thing I was going to show in the admin settings was around playback is around ECDN providers, and I'll talk a little bit more about what those are in a second, but this is where you turn them on. So if you click this on, you would have to buy a solution from Hive, Collective, or Ramp, but this is where you go and set it up, Hive, Collective, or Ramp, and then just fill in the couple of strings that they give you here. So it's pretty simple. So I'll talk a little bit about those ECDN providers now. So as Cory talked through the playback flow and how we were doing upload, we do this like multi-bit rate, adaptive bit rate encoding. And so we are trying to optimize the encoding and how the video delivery happens in stream in and of itself. So for VOD, we actually are doing this smart encoding where we're analyzing the input video that you give us, the bit rate, the frame rate, the size, how much motion is in it, and we're trying to pick a profile to encode to that is actually optimal for that content so that we're not throwing giant amount of bits at a video when it doesn't need as many bits to be played back and look good to the human eye. So we do that for VOD already today. And then for VOD and live, we are doing adaptive bitrate streaming, which if you're not familiar with it means every video you upload, we give you like 7 different versions of that back, down from 1080p down to like a 180p super small video with different bit rates, different resolution sizes. And then as your bandwidth, as you're playing the video is good, we'll send you the higher quality video. If your bandwidth is low, we'll send you a lower quality version of the video. And we also take into account the resolution of the screen that you're on. So if you're on a smaller resolution screen, we'll send you the lower quality, smaller version of the video, higher 4K monitor, full screen, we'll send you the higher quality 1080p version of it. So we do optimize in that way. However, it is unicast, meaning everyone who watches the video is going to the internet, downloading the chunks to their machine over and over. So for VOD, maybe it's not such a big issue inside of your network. Maybe you do have a CEO quarterly results email where everyone is supposed to watch it at 2:45 p.m. on Wednesday. And so that may act like a live event or something where lots of people are watching the same thing over and over, but it is still spread out, right? Like not everyone's watching it all at the same time. But when you start using live events as part of Microsoft 365, like lots of people are going to be watching that event all at the same time. And so they're all downloading the chunks of the video over and over. And so if you have a big internet pipe up to the internet and you're okay downloading that, great. If you're not, then you need to look at one of these solutions. And so there's 2 things you can do. One is you can use a HTTP cache proxy. So if you already have cache proxies in your system, you may have to do a little bit of SSL cert work. You find our URLs, do some cert work because we're sending over HTTPS, but you can use Blue Coat's riverbeds and get your content caching through there. So that's one option. The other option is to use an ECDN that was built for stream and is pre-integrated. You have to go buy these solutions. We don't give you free as part of Office 365, but you can buy these solutions. So there's 3 that we work with today, Hive, Collective, and Ramp. Hive and Collective are very similar to each other. They're peer-to-peer based solutions. So you'll have a little agent that runs on each individual PC inside your network, or they have WebRTC based solutions for modern browsers where you don't need an agent. And what happens is they've built plugins for our players. They have the little agent running. The plugin knows how to intercept our video playback URLs and transform them into something that can look at the agent on the machine. And the agent is saying, hey, do I have a copy of this chunk of the video that I'm trying to play right now? If I do, just serve it back. Don't go out to the internet, don't go anywhere, serve it from my cache. If I don't have that, go look in a peering grid. Go look at the person down the hall, the person next to me in the cubicle. Did they already download this chunk of the video? If they did, just serve it back. So you don't have internet traffic. And then finally, if no one has it, it's not in the peering grid, I don't have it, go to the internet, download the video. So their solution offloads 80, 90% of your traffic for when lots of people are watching the same video at the same time. Ramp has 2 solutions, so they're very different from Hive and Collective. They're all on-prem. Hive and Collective have it's on-prem, it's an agent on your device, but they have some cloud services that are helper services. Ramp is completely on-prem, so they have 2 solutions, one called OmniCache, another one called Multicast Plus. OmniCache is really like a classic cache proxy. You deploy it on a VM, insert these at key points in your network, you route the traffic through those, and it has big hard drives, and it serves the data back. Their Multicast Plus solution is a pure multicast multicast solution. And so it only works for live, but if you multicast enable your network, you have a little sender app that knows about the live event that's running through stream, and you have a little receiver app on everyone's device. The sender app sends it over the multicast network, and the receiver sits there and receives it. And so you're literally only sending that one chunk through the network one time via the multicast ability. So especially as we get into talking about live, and as you guys look at using live, these ECDN and cache proxy solutions become much more important. For VOD, may not be as important depending on the network traffic. And again, it all depends on your network itself. The other thing I wanted to show off is kind of just a little bit of the UI of these providers. So the reason I'm doing this is because Hive and Collective have also, in addition to doing that caching that I just told you about, they actually provide a lot of statistics. Stream doesn't have analytics yet. We're working to get some basic analytics over this calendar year and into the next. But they fill in the gap for us there. And so they actually have things like quality of service, how many times were things buffered, where in the world were the people watching these videos, which part of the video was watched, and they can even aggregate it up at the tenant level so you can see all of your live events. And so internally at Microsoft, we use one of these, and we actually use it to monitor our live events real time to make sure that no problems are happening as the live event is running. And so they're really great from that perspective, and you can get to those analytics reports directly from Stream once you've bought and purchased and licensed them in. Yeah.
It's going to depend a lot on it depends on a lot of things, right? It's how big is your pipe? No matter how big your company is your pipe big enough for, assume every single client in your company is downloading this thing, can your pipe handle that? It's also about how you scale the live event. So there's a big difference if your live event is to 200 people versus 10,000 people. There's quite a difference in there. So it really depends. It also depends on how your network is configured, and are you optimized to get data from Stream, or are you optimized for peer-to-peer? If your company has clients spread all around the world and there's very few clusters of people, it's not going to help you much because there's no peer-to-peer to share with. And so there's a lot of things that go into it. I'll talk in a second about some things to help encourage a successful live event. And a lot of it's going to come down to testing and knowing what to look for and when to make these decisions to use these providers. Right.
Yeah, I think we don't have that prescriptive guidance yet to kind of give you that, but definitely good feedback to us that we should work with the ECDN providers, try to come up with what some of those guidance are to kind of give you a better sense. Just from an example of our own internal network at Microsoft, just because we can speak to it, we went for a really long time without an ECDN solution, but where we saw that we have giant internet pipes, and so it doesn't matter, so we're probably not the normal network, so, but we did eventually decide to implement an ECDN for locations where we have a development center in India, and we have a development center in China, and in all over the world. And so there's small pockets of 30 people in the same office, but they don't have the same internet traffic bandwidth to go up, and they're not in the region. And so we ended up implementing it first just for them, and now we're rolling out the agents for everyone, and so everyone will get it eventually at Microsoft. So we have decided to do it, but again, our network is completely, vastly different than your network. You had one question.
So that's on the live event side. What about just basic Stream in general? In terms of, if your environment is an MPLS network and you have quality of service markers, like voice is real time, which is often usually the highest. You have video conferencing, and then you go down from there. Is there a guide for Stream on configuring within for QoS to ensure you have the proper amount of data in your queues on your network?
We don't. The traffic we send is just HTTP traffic. It's over HTTPS, so there's not special protocols, not special anything. It's just MP4 chunks being delivered over HTTP. And so you can look at, what I generally tell people is to go upload some sample content of the kinds of things you would actually play back and have in your system, and then go look at how much traffic is used by those. Again, because we do a different encoding profile per each kind of video. So we can't say oh, it's always 720p is always 2 megabits per second. It's not. It depends on the content. So go put some sample content in there. Go play the videos on resolutions and sizes that you think. Look at how much traffic that is. Go multiply that by how many users you think are going to be watching the same video at the same time, and go figure out if you have enough for your internet bandwidth or not. So we don't have any prescriptive like, hey, this is the networking guide for that, but it's those basic things. Correct, but that's a completely different beast. It wasn't just web traffic, it was this other stuff. So it was special protocols, you add these little markers and that sort of stuff. This is just web traffic.
And to be clear, like when we talk about the ECDN part of this, it's really only going to benefit you if you have a lot of people watching the same content at the same time. So for normal stream video on demand, there are definitely scenarios where that might happen, but normal usage is going to be you go watch a video at 6 o'clock, you're watching a different video at 6:15, and maybe someone watched the same video you did at 9. So the ECDN is not going to be as useful there because the caches all have timing and stuff. And so it's not going to benefit you as much as it will for that live scenario.
For VOD, they do have a bigger cache than they do for live, because live, everyone's watching roughly around the same time. VOD, it's spread out. So you do have control with the ECDN providers of how long VOD traffic sits around. So if you would anticipate people are going to be watching the same video roughly in 48 hours of each other after an email goes out from the leaders in the company, then you can change some of those configurations to the ECDN so that it does. But it's not going to give you 80-90% optimization. It's going to give you something lower than that probably.
Cool. So I want to talk a little bit about live itself and why it's a special beast and what are some of the things that we do to help it scale. And so to start with, again, going over the flow so you guys are all familiar with what happens in a live event. So it starts by the client creating the live event. And just to be clear, I'm going to start on how the producer flow is. So that's the person creating the live event. And I'll talk a little bit about the viewer flow in a second. So the producer is going to go in and create a live event with the metadata, title, description, schedule, etc. Again, just like on the video upload, we're going to go ahead and store that metadata in our encrypted SQL. We're going to go ahead and let the producer choose what encoder they want. So those of you that are familiar with live events, this makes sense. For those that haven't done a live event yet, you have to select what your encoder is. How are you going to get video from the real world into stream? We have several partners here that some of which use hardware encoders, not like we have here. It's a hardware box with HDMI cables that are taking inputs from cameras and things like that, and they send the stream directly to stream. Other encoders are software encoders that might use your webcam or files on your computer or potentially even websites. So there's a whole bunch of options on how you want to get your source for your live event. The user can then, once they have the encoder, they can actually set up the event. This is the thing that actually starts allocation of resources on our side. So to do this, we go ahead and reserve a channel for you for your live event in Azure Media Services to make sure that we are ready for your live event at any time. We actually do create a pool of these resources just ready, waiting to jump as soon as someone says they need it. And so it's going to go ahead and reserve one of those. This could take anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes depending on load and capacity and whatnot. So it's going to go ahead and signal back that says, hey, your channel is ready. At this point, the producer flow says, hey, you have a channel ready to go. Go ahead and start your encoder. And depending on which encoder you choose, some of them are as simple as click a button. Some of them you take our ingest URL and you copy paste it into your encoder and do some settings. But that says, hey, your encoder is ready to go. Go ahead and start pushing data to stream. At this point, the encoder starts up. Start sending chunks up to Azure Media Services. Azure Media Services is taking those fragments. We have some recommendations for these chunks. We recommend they're 2-second chunks. That gives us the most flexibility to optimize the different settings, but it's really up to the encoder to tell us what they want to give us. And if you send us 30-second chunks, okay, that's what we're going to use, and it's going to result in a different profile than if you just did 2-second chunks. So it's going to start processing those fragments, and it's going to turn around and start serving them back up. So the processing is the same as I already talked about for the upload flow, even for live, it just happens in real time, and starts serving up those chunks again. So same encryption process, same decryption keys, and all that stuff we already talked about. So then the producer page has its own special view, and that is called the producer view, oddly enough. And that's giving you a chance to see what's about to be shown. It's also the way that you make sure that, hey, the video that I expect to be going out of my encoder is what I'm seeing. And so you get a chance to preview exactly what the users are going to see in a few seconds. We do make sure that your view is ahead of the viewers, so there's a lag between what you see and what viewers see to give you a chance to actually react to whatever it is that you happen to see there. And so that lets you know things are ready to go. At that point, you're clear to actually start the event. This is the first time that you actually enable other people to see this video stream. So up until now, it's private. You can see it and no one else can. When you hit start event, that's what, if someone else was happening to look at the page, their UX was gonna switch over to say, hey, it's about to start, sit tight, to boom, there's the video. So this is what actual triggers the event to go. It's up to you to do that. That way, if you're behind schedule, on time, doesn't matter, it's not gonna start streaming video until you say go. At that point, the event runs its course, perfectly successfully, hopefully, and then when it's all done, you can disconnect the event, and that's when we go ahead and start the process of cleaning up resources. So that's where we actually shut down the live channel, make sure everything's good there, but that's also where we start processing the video and convert it from a live event over to a video on demand. So again, we're gonna hit the same flow we talked about for upload, where we're gonna go ahead and start the multiple bitrate encodings, we're gonna go ahead and do the transcription, the face detection, all the stuff that we do for all of our videos in stream. And so, with that said, live events are really complicated. What makes them different than video on demand? So, what I have here is a couple things about tips about what I want to talk to you about. Ways to help make sure you have a successful live event. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, like your network plays a huge deal in how successful this is going to be. So the first thing is look through the set of encoders. The different encoders have different properties. Some of them help with optimizing for video sources, so whether it's HDMI or web content, but some of them actually optimize your network as well, like the High Vision Stream SRT encoder that can help solve some problems with depending on where you're streaming from and where your data center is. So take a look at some of the different encoders and see which encoder is actually going to meet your needs the best. The next best thing is run test events. This is the best way to really figure out how it's going to work. As far as the encoding and producing flow, it's going to be the same no matter how many people watch this event. So you can run as many test events as you want and get a really good feel of how well that piece of the puzzle is going to play out. This is going to give you things of, A, it makes you comfortable with the flow of just producing an event, and you actually know the right buttons to press at the right time, and you get familiar with that, which is a good thing. But it also really helps you configure your encoders. It helps you configure your network, some of which is just maybe your own network settings. Some of it may be that ECDN partner provision that Marc was talking about a little bit ago. It helps you set things like the encoding profile to make sure that you're doing the right 2-second chunks instead of 30-second chunks. All that stuff you get to play with in that safe environment where you're just doing some test events, and you can do as many of these as you need to get a successful outtake. This is where you're going to start to figure out, like, oh, maybe the ECDN stuff is going to help you with the test playback. So once we do the test producing thing, which is a great start, it is good to test your actual viewing as well, and that's where the ECDN is going to start to play in, and you're going to kind of get an idea whether that's going to be necessary or not. It's a little more difficult to test because you actually need to have people try to view it, and we have a lot of partners that just do test events or have a secondary stream for some live events. Say, hey, please be part of our beta program and try the stream event instead of the normal event, things like that. But it's a good way to find out whether these ECDN providers are going to be helpful. And lastly, a lot of us have firewall settings, and so this lets us make sure that the right firewall settings are in place to allow the video to actually stream through. The last big one is on the day of the event, you want to go and set up the event about at least 30 minutes ahead of time. And this just gives us a chance to make sure all the resources are provisioned, ready to go. It gives you a chance to make sure your encoder's set up. Like I mentioned, you have that preview window that lets you make sure the video is streaming correctly, your cameras are working, everything's just in place. We want to make sure that sometimes if there's high demand or high contention, it might take us a little bit longer to do provisioning. And so if you go in right before the live event is going to start and you expect to just say go and boom, you may find, oh shoot, it'd take a minute, hold on. So it's best to go in about 30 minutes ahead of time, just get everything streaming and going, and then that way when the live event's scheduled to start at 10 a.m., boom, you hit go, and it's ready to go. So why we think that you need some of this testing, and like how are we going to scale to make sure that this stuff works as best as possible for you guys. So as I mentioned, live events have a much different viewing profile than video on demand. In general, everyone starts watching the live event at the same time. Our data suggests that we get 90% of viewers are going to be in that first 5 minutes window. And so normally a video on demand, even something like his CEO saying, go watch this mail, it's going to be spread out in that day, so it's pretty nice bell curve. There's going to be an increase, but it's nice and easy. Live events, we see a spike. And so as you guys all probably aware, spikes are hard to handle in general in network scenarios. So that's one of the difficulties. Generally, you have a much larger viewership of live events. So when you do a live event, you're expecting a significant number of people watching this event, much more than a video on demand is generally, smaller numbers here and there and whatnot. So just total scale is higher. And it's important that we keep the lag/delay to a minimum. So, we want people are usually sitting in the audience as well as watching, and so we want that to be as close together as possible. Things like manifests, so if you're watching, we talked about that dynamic packaging a little bit earlier, specifically for HLS, which is used for your mobile devices, because it's a constantly changing stream, we have to redo that manifest every 2-second chunk that we have. And so we have to keep regenerating the manifest in real time and making sure that that's up to date so that all mobile clients continue a seamless process. So how do we deal with some of these issues? First thing is we just really optimize that authentication flow, which is handle that spike of people joining right at 10 a.m. We make sure that the authentication flow is as seamless and lightweight as possible on the services to make sure we can handle as many of those requests as we possibly can. All live content actually goes through a CDN. So it is stored encrypted on the CDN, just like every stage of the video and stream is always encrypted, but we use a CDN to deliver it worldwide so that the content is easily scales out that way. And lastly, all of our dynamic manifests and things like that are all cached for quick response. So even if the first person to go say, give me the manifest for this timestamp, the next person's going to get the cached version, and we're not constantly regenerating these manifests and constantly repackaging things. We have a whole bunch more work planned for the coming year to even make this even better and scale even more. So this is some of the stuff we do today.
Cool, so we're just going to show really quickly, there's just one main admin setting that controls live events for these external encoder type events. And if I go over here to live events, you can see that there's a single setting to enable it on or off. So you can have everyone be able to create these live events yourself. Over here, create live event. Or you could toggle this off and just say a specific set of people or AD security group set of people can create these live events. You can see if there was an event running right now, which ones are running. Even if you don't have access, you aren't the owner of that video, of that live event, you can actually see them in an admin mode, as well as you can see upcoming ones. You can see which ones people in your organization have actually scheduled. And the little pencil here says edit in admin mode, so that's the same admin mode that we saw on the VOD, and it applies here, so you can jump in and see that as well. So we're just about done here. We wanted to go through really quickly and just show you a little bit of kind of what we are working on. So this did get mentioned in all of our other sessions around what our roadmap looks like. But I just wanted to call out two things that we did demo here today. So the replace video and keep the same links is not available right now. It is coming out in the next month or so. And then the same thing with the recycle bin, where we were able to restore that video from a 30-day recycle bin. That's not released yet as well, but that we're working on the last settings on that. So those two are coming very soon. You can also see kind of the other stuff in there as well. So just to reiterate, key takeaways, we have the compliance tier D, we have the admin controls that you need. It's built on an architecture that is used that can allow you to scale and be secure. And then there is a little bit that you need to do in terms of planning for network and bandwidth, especially around live, around groups, and a couple of admin settings. So cool. Well, thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.